I've figured out how to turn ChatGPT into a tool to write your emails that don't sound like AI, but they sound like you. So if you've got a coaching business where your brand voice is important, let me show you exactly how to do it. Welcome back to the channel. If you're a return viewer, if you're brand new, hello, welcome. Good news about this one is, well, I am going to be talking about ChatGPT during this. I'm going to use that as the sort of the default tool that I'm going to talk about. Of course, you can use others. There's Claude, there's all the other ones. I'm not going to list them all off. Whichever AI you happen to be using, that is probably going to work just fine. But what we want to do before we get into these actual techniques is we want to make sure the output, what it actually produces, is better than what you would do. I remember just a few months ago, just 6 months ago, being amazed. It was almost like a magic trick that AI could write sentences. And we were like, isn't this great? And the answer was, yes, it's great that a computer is doing it, but it's not better than you. It's not good enough to actually send. So we're now beyond that point. We are now at the point where it actually is good enough to send. And it is quite amazing. People are seeing quite a revolution. We're seeing people inside of our programs having amazing success using the exact email framework, this AI framework I'm about to share with you. What I want to make sure, though, is before we allow any new technique, any new strategy in our businesses, whether that's AI, like what we're going to talk about today, or it's a new system, a new approach or something, we always want to ask ourselves this one question. Is it gonna do a better job than I would do? Not just the same. Well, it's gonna save me some time. It's not quite as good. Like, is it gonna do a better job? If the answer is yes, at that point, that's where we want to say yes to investing in that thing. And we're going to invest some time into this. We might invest some money into this. We're going to invest resources into this. One of the things that makes this really good and it makes it so powerful for people like us, if you're a coach, if you have an online course, you're selling your expertise or some kind of done-for-you service, this stuff makes you more consistent. By having AI write your emails, you're able to think strategically and then have it do the sort of the mundane bit of doing the writing if you don't enjoy writing. And most people don't. Most people don't want to learn to be a great writer. You don't have to anymore. You don't have to add that skill to your skill set anymore. This thing makes you more consistent because, first of all, it produces emails faster than you probably write them yourself. Secondly, because it actually comes up with the ideas. So you're no longer going, right, how do I actually sort of say that? I want to express this, but how do I say it, right? And here's the most important thing. We really want this to sound like you. If it doesn't sound like you are really damaging that personal brand. You're going to just blend into the boring mundanity of that sort of grey, bland inbox that their eyes glaze over every single damn day. And we don't want that. Your emails are an amazing opportunity for you to express your personality, to express your philosophies. And that was the bit that was really missing from AI before. Before, it wasn't really able to integrate your thinking. And I'm going to show you the exact model that we use to actually personalize everything about this so it does sound like you. It's talking about your stuff, it's doing it in your voice, and people really can't tell the difference. The only difference that my subscribers might have noticed is there's less typos in my emails these days because ChatGPT doesn't tend to make many typos unless I go in, alter things, and then I usually leave evidence of that behind. If you actually want to know the entire framework that I've been using to help more than 8,000 paying clients make multiple millions of dollars, I want to give you that framework right now. To go download that framework, just go to emailmarketingheroes.com/fast. And that's where you can download what I call the Fast and Forever framework. The whole framework that we use actually to build our entire business. Let's take a look at these elements. There are 5 elements actually make this thing work. If you miss one of these 5 elements, then you are really not going to have a good enough GPT that's going to work. And as I said, this will work in other platforms as well. So the first thing we need to do is get it to sound like us. So what we're going to do is we're going to train it on our voice. Now, you've probably seen a lot of different trainings on how to do this, and they are always evolving. But right now, AI and ChatGPT are all advanced enough to really take a sample of your voice and to understand how to replicate that tone. So all we're going to do is we're going to, and I've tried this very many ways. I've tried grabbing lots of my emails. I've tried grabbing some of my long form content, like a book I'm writing. I've tried to use that to train it on my voice. And every single time I come back to the same thing, which is it doesn't do nearly as good a job legitimately communicating how I communicate, doing any of that written stuff compared to when I give it a transcript of some videos or some audio where I've just been chatting. So what I did instead is I grabbed a bunch of audio of me teaching, of me sharing, of podcasts, anything that is audio, right? So if you don't have anything, you could just sit and talk to it, talk into your phone and explain your main philosophies into your phone using your everyday language. What it's then going to be able to do is you're able to grab the transcript of that, and I would call that file something like voice sample or voice tone sample. That's the first thing you're going to give it. You're going to say, here's my voice tone sample. So it's going to learn for itself how to replicate your tone literally by hearing it. And here's the psychology, by the way, of why you want to use some audio and the transcript of that. You see, when we start to write, we automatically can't help but be thrown back to when we were taught to write. We're writing essays, we're at school, we're at university, we're at college, and we sort of go into this mode of writing compared to how we actually think, which is much more aligned to the way that we express when we're talking. So what happens when someone reads our words? They're reading your words in an email or anywhere else, and they do a thing called sub-vocalization. You do it all the time. When you're reading some words, you hear those words in your head. What's beautiful is if you write how you talk, which is something I've been teaching people to do for like a decade at this point, write how you speak, because when people read your words, they can hear your voice in their head, and it becomes much more warm, much more familiar, and much more real. So the real cheat to this that you can take advantage of right now with AI is feed it the literal transcript of you speaking, because then it will understand your turns of phrase, your cadence, the way you tend to express things, the kind of nouns you will use, the kind of adjectives you will use, the kind of verbs you naturally use. So, for example, mine will never talk about a sports reference because I never make sports references because, frankly, I know nothing about sports. Well, if it's about pizza and pies, I've got you covered, right? So that's the first thing, your voice, and do that based on a transcript. Thing number 2 is we have to train it on your philosophies, on what are the things you believe about your niche. As a coach, as an expert, as a course creator, you are going to have certain philosophies around your topic and your subject matter. A few months ago, went to ChatGPT and said, hey, give me an email. It's going to probably say some stuff. You go, that's kind of a generic answer. Or I kind of disagree with that. That's what everybody else thinks, but my approach is different. And for most of us, the reason we are coaches, the reason that we are sharing our expertise is because we've got something different to actually say. So we have to train it on our philosophies. So how do you do that? Well, you feed it your philosophies. If you've written a book, give it the PDF of your book. If you've got a huge blog, get something to scrape those blog posts, put them into a PDF and give it those blog posts. If you have your course, get the transcript of the course. If you've got recordings of your coaching calls, get those transcripts, PDF them, put them in. Podcast episodes, transcripts, put them in. Give it as much on your philosophies as you possibly can. Ideally, all of it. Because now, when you put something in there, you'll be amazed that it pulls out of those philosophies. I'm amazed at how many times my GPT will say, well, in an email I have it right, it'll talk about my boat and island framework. I'm like, oh my God, it really listened. It really understands the way that I approach my topic of email marketing. So that's the second thing, is your philosophies. Thing number 3 you need to teach it and tell it about are your products. So what are the products that you are going to be promoting using the emails that you're going to have it right? It needs to know what those are. Otherwise, again, it's going to give you generic, shitty responses. So we need to give it that information, but we only need to give it once. In all of this, by the way, we're building a custom GPT to use, right? So we're going to tell it about our products. So how do you do that? Well, you go and make a PDF of your sales pages. If you have your sales page copy written in a Google Doc, you're already ahead of the curve. Just save that as a PDF and make them into sales pages and put them into a PDF inside of the ChatGPT. If you sell on webinars, give it the transcript from the webinar. Whatever it is, give it the information on your product. And I don't just mean what it's called, the benefits and the price. I want to make sure it has the full context of what your product really does. Who does it help? Why is it unique? What makes it unique? And how is it really going to uniquely help people? What are the kind of results that you've had from people? All those elements that you already have when you do a webinar, or you have a sales page, or a VSL, a sales video, you're going to have the transcript of that. All that information is useful because, again, that's going to give you a way more interesting and not generic email that it's going to produce in the end. So now we've got your voice, your philosophies, and your products. Great. Now we really need to refine it a bit more. There's two more things, and the last one is something I don't see anybody else doing in their prompt, and it makes a huge difference. But we'll get to that in a second. Just before that is we want to teach it some style. Give it some style. Yes, some style, some razzmatazz if you've got razzmatazz, or some yawn if you're kind of boring. Whatever. The first piece of that is tell it to speak and respond and write like a real friend who's just having a chat, who's having a conversation. This should not be like a formal report. The second thing, and this one really helps to really make it not look like ChatGPT at all, is to tell it to use contractions. In general, ChatGPT and others will say the full versions of like, I am this, or she will that. Instead, we're going to tell it to use contractions. So it'll say I'm and she'll and we'll, those kind of things. So again, tell it to use contractions as part of the style. Also, tell it whether you want it to swear and curse or not. So in my emails, I swear and curse. So I tell it to swear and curse to emphasize points, to create excitement, create tension, and to create shock around certain things. So again, but if you don't want it to swear and curse, tell it to not swear and curse. Again, these are things that are going to make it not look like GPT. And here's a big one before we get onto this final piece. This final bit of style is what I call an avoid list. This is another thing that I don't see anybody else talking about. You want to find all of the phrases that you know when you read them, you're like, oh my God, that ChatGPT definitely wrote that. That's definitely an AI email. Identify as many of them as you can, create a PDF and include it and say, here's my avoid list. Never use these phrases. And that avoid list could be things that make it look like AI. It could be stuff that you would just never say, but create an avoid list. And that'll really beat the GPT out of it. And now the final thing that, again, I don't see anybody doing, and it's a huge opportunity missed. And that is the final phase. So yes, it's going to be in your voice. It's going to be able to talk about your philosophies. It's going to be able to introduce and promote your product. And with the testimonials and the social proof, it's going to have a style that's conversational and not sound like ChatGPT. So why not add on this last beautiful layer, which is to teach it how to be a really good copywriter, how to write in a way that actually converts really highly. And when I say converts really highly, I'm talking about is emotional, is things that people could understand. So the things I'm asking you to do is, one, in this copywriting section, teach it to write in a way that creates emotional resonance. Tell it to use emotion. Next, tell it to write at the age of understanding for an 8-year-old. What we don't want is it using really salubrious language, right? I don't want it using complicated, advanced language that some people will disconnect with and not know what the heck's going on. So I'm going to tell it to write as if it's for an 8-year-old to understand. Don't say write for an 8-year-old. Write so that an 8-year-old can understand this. Next, I'm going to ask it another really important thing for writing good copy is whenever I see bad copy, it usually means that they're using lots of adverbs. And adverbs in copy, one of those things that actually are just compensating for poorly kind of shitty verbs. So again, I say never use adverbs, use strong verbs instead. So again, you'll find that your copy really pops and it isn't bloated with lots of additional adverbs. And then a sort of a stylistic thing, which is I tell it to give us a maximum of 3 sentences per paragraph. Keep the paragraph short, anywhere between 1 and 3 sentences long, and keep it punchy. So now you've got all of those things, you're very easily able to create your own GPT, putting those kind of things into the prompt, and now you can ask it to write your emails for you. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, make sure that you hit the like and subscribe. That really is going to help me to continue to grow this channel because it's brand new. It's pretty new. I'm still trying to do my best for you. And let me know in the comments, what did you take from this? What was the biggest aha from you? If you've got any questions for future videos that I could make, I'd absolutely love to do that for you. Thanks a lot. I'll see you next week.